The sun blazed down on the open square, where hundreds of people had gathered for a much-anticipated public event. Excited voices filled the air, blending with the hum of camera crews and the occasional cheer that rippled through the crowd. At the center of it all stood Donald Trump, addressing the audience from a raised platform. His words carried authority, but his tone was approachable, drawing in the diverse crowd that hung on to his every sentence. Suddenly, amidst the cheers and clapping, a sharp cry broke through the noise, a sound so distinct that it silenced the crowd nearest to it. Heads turned toward the source of the sound. There, just a few feet from the front row, stood a little boy no older than 6, clutching a worn stuffed bear to his chest. His tear-streaked face was a portrait of panic as he scanned the sea of unfamiliar faces. His small voice wavered as he called out, "Mommy? Where's my mommy?" The crowd around him exchanged glances, their excitement now replaced with concern. A few people bent down, trying to comfort the boy, but their well-meaning words only seemed to heighten his fear. The boy took a few hesitant steps backward, his grip tightening on his toy, his sobs growing louder. On stage, Donald Trump paused mid-sentence, his attention drawn to the commotion. His eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on the small boy. He leaned toward his security team and asked, "What's going on over there?" Without waiting for a reply, he raised his hand, signaling the event to pause. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Trump descended from the stage, his towering presence cutting through the sea of people. The crowd parted instinctively, allowing him to approach the child. As Trump knelt to the boy's eye level, his usual commanding demeanor softened into one of gentle reassurance. "Hey there, buddy," he said, his voice calm and steady. "What's your name?" The boy hiccuped through his tears, his voice barely audible. "Evan," he stammered, clutching his bear even tighter. Trump offered a warm smile, his eyes kind. "Evan, that's a great name. I'm Donald. Now don't worry, okay? We're going to find your mommy. You're not alone." Evan blinked up at him, his sobs slowing as Trump spoke. The unexpected kindness from someone so imposing seemed to cut through his fear. Trump extended his hand, palm up. "Can I hold your hand while we figure this out?" he asked gently. After a brief hesitation, Evan nodded and placed his tiny hand in Trump's larger one. The crowd, still watching intently, murmured in awe at the scene unfolding before them. Trump turned to his team and said, "Let's help Evan find his mom." As Trump began leading Evan to a quieter spot, his hand a steady anchor for the boy, the crowd erupted into a ripple of applause. Not for the speech that had been interrupted, but for the man who had stepped down to help a scared child. The suspense lingered in the air. Would they find Evan's mother? And how would this story unfold? Donald Trump crouched down, his towering frame now level with Evan's tear-streaked face. The boy's tiny fingers gripped the well-worn stuffed bear, his knuckles white as if it were the only thing keeping him steady. Trump's voice, calm and steady, broke through the boy's hiccuped sobs. "Evan," he said softly, "can you tell me what your mom looks like? What's she wearing?" Evan sniffled, his wide, frightened eyes darting toward the crowd that had gathered. "She's wearing a blue dress," he whispered, his voice barely audible. And she has brown hair like me." He tightened his hold on the bear, his little shoulders trembling. Trump gave him a reassuring nod, his expression warm. "That's a great start, Evan," he said. "Blue dress and brown hair. We'll find her, okay? But first, I need you to do one thing for me." Evan's gaze flickered up to Trump, his brow furrowed in confusion. What? He asked, his voice small. "Breathe," Trump said with a smile, inhaling deeply to demonstrate. "Like this. Can you do that with me?" Big breath in. He made an exaggerated inhale, and after a moment Evan mimicked him, his little chest rising shakily. "And out," Trump continued, exhaling slowly. Evan followed, his breathing steadier now. The crowd, captivated by the scene, seemed to collectively hold their breath. Trump reached out his hand, his palm open and inviting. "Now how about you hold my hand? We're going to figure this out together." Evan hesitated, his wide eyes darting from Trump's face to the outstretched hand. Slowly, he placed his small hand in Trump's, finding an anchor in the firm yet gentle grip. The murmur of the crowd softened, the awe palpable as they watched Trump guide Evan toward a quieter corner. The security team hovered nearby, their earpieces buzzing with updates as they coordinated the search for Evan's mother. Trump turned to one of them and said, "Spread the word. Blue dress, brown hair. Let's make this fast." Evan's grip tightened as they walked, his little voice breaking through the silence. "Is Mommy okay?" he asked, his tone a mix of fear and hope. Trump stopped, crouching down again so they were eye level. "Your mom is probably looking for you just as hard as we're looking for her," he said. "She loves you, Evan, I can tell." Evan's lips quivered, but a faint glimmer of trust shone in his tear-filled eyes. "You think so?" "I know so," Trump replied firmly. "And you know what else? You're doing such a brave job right now. Holding on to your bear, staying strong, that's what makes you a hero to your mom." Evan's small smile broke through the fear, and for the first time, the weight on his little shoulders seemed to lift. The crowd, now a silent witness to this intimate moment, felt the emotion ripple through them. As Trump led Evan further from the noise of the crowd, his voice carried a sense of determination that matched the hope slowly building in Evan's heart. "We'll find her, buddy," Trump said, his grip steady. "I promise you're safe with me." In that moment, the crowd wasn't just watching a public figure. They were witnessing the purest form of humanity, a man who paused everything to bring comfort to a frightened child. The question lingered in the air: how long until mother and son would be reunited? And would Evan's newfound calm hold until then? Donald Trump knelt beside Evan, his towering presence a reassuring shield for the boy. The hum of the crowd faded into the background as Trump focused solely on calming the child. Evan's tear-streaked face had softened slightly, his little fingers still clutching his stuffed bear as if it held all the courage he could muster. "Evan," Trump said with a warm smile, "your bear looks like a brave one. What's his name?" Evan glanced down at the toy, hesitating before whispering, "Teddy?" Trump chuckled softly. "Teddy, huh? Good name. I think Teddy might be braver than me, you know. Look how strong he is, keeping you company." Evan's lips twitched, the smallest hint of a smile appearing. "He's always with me," he said, his voice still shaky but steadier now. "That's good," Trump replied. "Teddy's doing a great job. But let me tell you something, Evan. You're being just as brave as Teddy right now, and I know your mom would be so proud of you." Evan looked up at him, his big brown eyes shimmering with a mixture of trust and hope. "Do you really think she's looking for me?" Trump nodded firmly, his voice filled with conviction. "I don't just think it, I know it. Moms never stop looking for their kids, and my team is helping her, so we'll find her soon." As they spoke, Trump's security team worked tirelessly, scanning the crowd for any sign of Evan's mother. They moved swiftly, relaying the description: a woman in a blue dress with brown hair. In the chaos of the event, their sharp eyes finally spotted someone matching the description. A woman pushing her way through the throng, her face pale and streaked with tears. She was calling out frantically, her voice cracking with every cry. "Evan! Evan!" One of the security members approached her cautiously. "Ma'am, are you looking for your son?" The woman spun around, her eyes wide with desperation. "Yes," she cried, clutching her chest. "He's 6, wearing a red shirt and holding a stuffed bear. Please tell me you've seen him." The guard nodded, his voice calm but firm. "We believe we've found him. Come with me." The mother's relief was palpable, but her movements were hesitant, her breath hitching as fear warred with hope. "Is he okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Is he hurt?" "He's safe," the guard assured her. "But we need to confirm it's him before we reunite you." Meanwhile, back with Evan, Trump continued to distract him with gentle conversation. "So what's your favorite superhero, Evan?" he asked, his tone light. "Spider-Man," Evan replied shyly, his grip on Teddy loosening slightly. "Because he's not scared of anything." "Spider-Man's a good choice," Trump said with a wink. "But I think you're just as brave as he is right now." The moment was interrupted as the security team radioed in. "We've found a woman who matches the description, bringing her over now." Trump nodded, his grip on Evan's hand tightening slightly. "Evan," he said softly, "I think we might have found your mom." Evan's eyes widened, a spark of hope igniting in their depths. The suspense hung thick in the air as they waited for what was to come. The moment that would determine everything. Would it really be her? Would Evan finally be back in his mother's arms? The sound of hurried footsteps grew louder as the security guard approached with Evan's mother. Her face was pale, her hair disheveled, and her eyes red from crying. She clutched her chest as she followed, her breaths coming in shallow gasps. The moment she turned the corner and saw Evan standing with Donald Trump, her composure shattered. "Evan!" she cried, her voice cracking with a mixture of relief and desperation. Evan froze for a split second, his small body stiffening as her voice registered. Then, as if propelled by pure instinct, he let go of Trump's hand and ran toward her. "Mommy!" he shouted, his voice piercing the air as he dropped his stuffed bear and threw himself into her arms. The mother fell to her knees, enveloping her son in a fierce embrace. Her tears flowed freely as she rocked him back and forth, clutching him as though she never wanted to let go. "Oh, my baby," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I was so scared. I thought I'd lost you forever." Evan buried his face in her shoulder, his small body racked with sobs. "I was scared too, Mommy," he whimpered. "But Mr. Trump helped me. He said we'd find you." The mother looked up, her tear-streaked face turning to Trump, who stood a few steps away, watching the reunion with a gentle smile. Her lips trembled as she tried to form words. "Thank you," she managed, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to thank you enough. I can't imagine what could have happened if you hadn't helped him." Trump stepped closer, his expression calm but compassionate. He knelt slightly to their level and placed a reassuring hand on Evan's shoulder. "You've got a brave little guy here," he said warmly. "He kept it together and trusted we'd find you. You should be very proud of him." The mother nodded, her tears falling faster. "I am," she whispered, holding Evan tighter. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart." Evan wiped his eyes with his sleeve, his small voice breaking through the emotional weight of the moment. "Mommy, I didn't let go of Teddy. I kept him with me." She kissed the top of his head, her voice a mixture of a laugh and a sob. "I see that, baby. You were so brave." The crowd that had gathered to witness the reunion erupted into applause, their cheers filling the air. People wiped their own tears, moved by the raw emotion of the moment. Trump glanced at the crowd, waving a hand modestly to dismiss the applause. His focus remained on the mother and son. "You did everything right," Trump said to the mother, his voice steady. "Sometimes things happen, but what matters is that he's safe now." The mother nodded, still overwhelmed. "Thank you," she said again, her gratitude pouring out in every word. "You didn't have to do this, but you did. You cared." Trump gave a small nod, his voice soft but firm. "Every child deserves to feel safe, and every parent deserves moments like this." The mother clutched Evan tightly, and the boy looked up at Trump with wide eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Trump," Evan said, his voice sincere and small. Trump patted his shoulder gently, his expression warm. As the mother and son held each other, the crowd began to chant softly, "Thank you, Trump." But in that moment, it wasn't about accolades, it was about humanity, about one act of kindness that reunited a family and touched the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. As the cheers of the crowd faded into the background, Donald Trump gestured for a seat nearby. The mother, still cradling Evan in her arms, hesitated for a moment, overwhelmed by everything that had just happened. Then, with Trump's gentle encouragement, she sat down, pulling her son close as if she could shield him from the world forever. Trump took a seat across from them, leaning forward slightly, his demeanor calm and approachable. He allowed the mother a moment to gather herself, her trembling hand brushing Evan's hair as he nestled against her shoulder. "I can't believe this happened," she began, her voice shaky but steadying as she spoke. "We were holding hands, walking through the crowd, and he dropped his bear. He let go for just a second to pick it up, and then I couldn't find him. I kept calling his name, but the crowd was so loud." Her voice cracked, and she blinked back fresh tears. I thought I'd lost him." Trump nodded, his expression serious but empathetic. "Things happen," he said, his voice low and steady. "Crowds like this can be overwhelming even for adults. What matters is that you didn't give up. You kept looking, and now he's safe." The mother sniffled, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "But I should have held on tighter. I should have—" Trump raised a hand gently, stopping her mid-sentence. "Don't blame yourself," he said firmly. "Being a parent isn't about being perfect. It's about doing your best. And from what I can see, you're doing exactly that. Evan, who had been listening quietly, looked up at his mother and whispered, "It wasn't your fault, Mommy. I wanted to get Teddy." She hugged him tightly, her tears falling freely now. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she murmured. Trump watched the exchange, a small reflective smile on his face. "You know," he began, his tone lightening, "I had a moment like this once, years ago. One of my kids—" He paused, chuckling softly. "They decided to wander off during a big event. For a few minutes, I couldn't find them, and let me tell you, it was the longest few minutes of my life." The mother looked at him, her brow furrowed in surprise. "You? You felt that panic?" "Oh, absolutely," Trump replied, leaning back slightly. "Every parent has. It's terrifying, but it's also a reminder of how much we love them. Moments like this, they show us just how strong that bond is." The mother nodded, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadier now. "Not just for finding him, but for understanding." Trump smiled warmly. "Every child deserves to feel safe," he said, glancing at Evan. "And every parent deserves peace of mind. That's why I stepped in." Evan, still clutching his bear, looked at Trump with wide eyes. "You're like a superhero," he said earnestly. Trump chuckled softly, reaching out to pat the boy's shoulder. "No, Evan, your mom's the real hero here. She never gave up on you." The mother's lips trembled, a mix of gratitude and pride washing over her. "Thank you," she whispered again, her words filled with sincerity. In that quiet moment, the chaos of the crowd faded entirely. All that remained was the profound connection between a mother, her son, and the man who had reminded them of the power of compassion. As Donald Trump rose from the bench where he had been sitting with Evan and his mother, the crowd, which had been watching in respectful silence, erupted into thunderous applause. The sound rolled through the square like a wave, a collective outpouring of admiration and gratitude for the simple yet profound act of kindness they had just witnessed. People stood from their seats, cheering, clapping, and even wiping tears from their eyes. Trump acknowledged the applause with a modest wave, but quickly turned back to Evan, who was still nestled in his mother's arms. "You're safe now, buddy," he said, giving the boy a small, reassuring smile. Evan nodded, his grip on his stuffed bear still firm, but his face now glowing with relief and a sense of security. Trump's security team escorted the family toward the edge of the crowd, ensuring they were safely reunited before Trump began making his way back to the stage. As he walked through the sea of people, many reached out to shake his hand, pat his shoulder, or simply thank him for what he had done. "You've shown us what leadership really looks like," one man said, his voice thick with emotion. A woman holding her young daughter called out, "Thank you for showing the world that no matter who you are, kindness matters." Trump nodded at each remark, his expression one of quiet humility. He stepped back onto the stage where the podium still waited for him, but the atmosphere had shifted completely. This wasn't about politics or speeches anymore. It was about humanity. A reporter standing near the front of the crowd raised his hand and asked, "Mr. Trump, why did you stop the event for one child? Most people wouldn't have paused something so important." Trump leaned toward the microphone, his voice steady and sincere. "Because some things are more important than speeches," he replied. "That boy was scared, and his mom was desperate to find him. In a moment like that, it's not about who you are or what role you're playing, it's about doing the right thing." The crowd erupted into cheers again, their admiration for his words and actions evident. Trump continued, his tone soft but resolute. "This isn't about me. It's about reminding all of us that small acts of kindness can make a big difference. Whether it's helping a lost child or simply being there for someone in need, it's those moments that define who we are." News cameras captured every word, and within hours, clips of the event began to spread like wildfire across social media. Posts poured in from people all over the world, sharing their thoughts and reflections. Trump showed us today that leadership isn't just about words, it's about actions. Kindness is universal, and this moment proves it. The story inspired a ripple effect. Strangers paid for each other's meals, donated to children's charities, and shared stories of their own acts of kindness. It was as though a single act of compassion had ignited a chain reaction of goodwill. Back on stage, Trump glanced at the crowd. his gaze lingering on the spot where Evan and his mother had stood. For him, this moment wasn't about the applause or the headlines. It was about a boy reunited with his mom, and a reminder to everyone watching that even the smallest gestures could leave a lasting impact. As the cheers finally began to fade, the crowd's energy shifted from admiration to inspiration. They weren't just moved, they were changed. And that was the real story. Days after the emotional reunion in the crowded square, Evan's mother sat at the small wooden table in their modest kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the crumpled paper beside her, a failed attempt at expressing the depth of her gratitude. In front of her lay a fresh sheet of paper, blank but filled with possibilities. She held her pen tightly, her mind replaying the moment she saw her son again, safe and sound in her arms. Evan sat nearby, humming softly as he played with his stuffed bear. The toy, now fondly nicknamed Lucky Bear, rarely left his side. "Mommy," he said suddenly, looking up with a bright smile. "Mr. Trump is my hero. He said I was brave, but I think he's braver." His words brought tears to her eyes. She reached out and ruffled his hair, her heart swelling with love. "He is a hero, Evan," she said softly, "because he cared when it mattered most." Taking a deep breath, she began writing. "Dear Mr. Trump, I don't know if words can ever truly express the gratitude I feel, but I'll try. You didn't just help my son that day. You gave me back a piece of my heart. When I thought I had lost him forever, you stepped in, not as a public figure, but as a human being. You knelt down to his level, spoke to him with kindness, and stayed until you were sure we were reunited. That's not just leadership, it's humanity. Evan talks about you every day now. He carries his lucky bear everywhere and tells everyone, 'Mr. Trump helped me find my mommy.' You gave him a memory of safety and comfort in what could have been a traumatic moment. For that, I will be forever grateful. Thank you for reminding us all that even in a world that often feels chaotic, there are moments of profound kindness that restore our faith in humanity. With deepest gratitude, Evan's mom." Folding the letter carefully, she placed it in an envelope, sealing it with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in days. Meanwhile, the story of the reunion continued to spread. News outlets, social media platforms, and even talk shows shared the video of Trump guiding a frightened Evan to safety and the emotional reunion that followed. The footage touched hearts worldwide, sparking conversations about the importance of kindness and compassion. One social media post summed it up perfectly. "It wasn't about politics, it wasn't about fame, it was about one person choosing to care when it mattered most." People shared stories of their own acts of kindness, inspired by Trump's gesture. Parents hugged their children a little tighter, and strangers reached out to help one another in small but meaningful ways. A movement began, reminding everyone that even the smallest actions could create ripples of change. Trump, however, remained humble. When asked about the incident during an interview, he simply said, "It wasn't about me. It was about doing the right thing. Every child deserves to feel safe, and every parent deserves to hold their child close." As the weeks went on, the story became more than just a viral moment. It became a reminder of the power of humanity. Evan's mother framed the letter she sent, alongside a photo of her son holding his lucky bear, as a testament to the kindness they experienced. This story is a reminder that kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change lives. Look for opportunities to lend a hand, comfort someone in need, or simply show compassion. In a world that can often feel divided, let's choose connection, care, and humanity. You never know how one small act can ripple out and inspire others to do the same.